The Cursed, Part 1. When it's October, the streets are expected to be covered with fresh leaves in the season of fall, especially when you're on a park full with trees. Not the case for the streets the three souls were walking on. It probably wouldn't be the best idea to roam around at the streets of Archer Cemetery at that time of the day. The streets are usually filled with dried leaves, which seem like they're dead there for 1,000 years, as it can because the atmosphere was silent and suffocating. Never had ever a single gust of wind touched the street of Archer Cemetery. The trees were dried out, having no leaves, while, because of the dense forest surrounding the cemetery, sunlight would never reach the place. It was surrounded by mist and melancholy. While the naive father leads the way, his 9-year-old kid, John, exclaims out, rather in excitement, "Dad, I just saw something moving. Over there." The little kid tells his dad while pointing his finger towards a bush on the cemetery fences. The father, Mr. Smith, holds her little daughter tightly in his arms. The whole idea of taking the kids for a ride and not being able to find the rare, very rare chocolate that his 4-year-old daughter Emily wants, then going to the nearby town because Emily won't stop crying for that chocolate. But who knew that something would happen to their car in the middle of nowhere, which will lead to their doom? He looks at where his kid is pointing his finger. He couldn't see it. He narrows his eyes. "Oh my, Dad!" He looks happy. "It's a teddy bear. Who would have left it at a place like this? But who cares? Emily's gonna love it." He loved his sister so very deeply. He runs to get it, or in other words, to his doom, as he looked so pleased to find a toy which was unexpected to be found at a place like that, like our John said. Realization hits Mr. Smith in the face. He widens his eyes and quickly stops John. "John, I said stop right there!" he yelled, which was way too loud. The only sound of his voice could be heard echoing in that dark, deserted place. John gets startled and scared, and he quickly runs back to his father. Terrified, he asks, "Dad, what's wrong? You never shout like that. Run!" His dad orders while grabbing his hand and running back towards the place they left their car, quite a bit far from where they were now. Mr. Smith was running at a pace like a tiger. Poor John couldn't compete with his speed, still he ran as fast as he could. Moreover, he was so terrified, seeing his dad react so violently and acting all furious. It was so disturbing for him. He sensed something was wrong, really wrong. He starts crying. "Dad." "John, try to calm down, my precious. We'll be all right. Just run with me," his dad answers while looking around the place as they ran, clearing every last bit of suspicion and, it was that place, the famous for its danger and paranormal incidents. It was the Archer Cemetery. They ran with all they had. Emily starts crying too as her dad comforts her, sweat beads dropping from his forehead out of fear. They find a turn and see their car at the end of the street. They stop as they find it and catch their breath. John stands, leaving his bag by the car, and slips down to the ground to now sit there. Mr. Smith quickly catches his breath and looks around, then sighs, while realizing that it was the park where their car had stopped. He looks up at his kids and takes them to sit on the nearby bench. All in his mind was, how could he be so stupid? He didn't even realize what that place was, and without any thoughts, he just wandered there in hope of finding someone who could help them with the car, or to help finding someone who could, in other words, a mechanic. His heart was still racing, all of theirs, and when he remembered what John saw, he couldn't stop sweating. "Dad, can I ask something now?" John pleads, his lips quivering. That Mr. Smith gets a call. "Hello?" "No." situation is literally serious. No, he stutters. The situation is really, literally serious now that I found. He wonders, then decides that he should not tell Mr. Davis, whom he had called earlier when he didn't pick up, that the place they are lost in is near the Archer Cemetery, because no one would come to help them then. Oh, nothing. It's urgent, my friend. The kids are crying. The night is about to fall. We can't wait for more than 30 minutes. That'd be so great. Just come fast. He hangs up. Mr. Smith had already texted his friend Mr. Davis telling him about his situation when no one had picked up his call earlier. And when even Mr. Davis didn't reply his text, he decided to do something. Then he, along with his kids, started to wander around the place to find a bit of hope. But all they found was their doom, the Archer Cemetery. What's it so special about the Archer Cemetery? John asks after his dad had told him why they ran. And that Teddy I saw? Mr. Smith starts shivering. You saw it? He stuttered. John was clueless of it all. He found it so annoying that his dad wasn't clearly telling him what was wrong. He nods. Mr. Smith takes a heavy breath. Then he takes out the locket he was wearing, a Jesus Christ crucifix cross locket. He kisses it and starts praying. John gets irritated. He had never liked praying and worshiping because he thought it was all fake and useless. Going to be the smartest student in his class, he had made several ideologies of his own, and being that arrogant and stubborn as him, he'd never believe in people, just because a 9-year-old rat found them stupid. He thought that ghosts and evil spirits are just old folk tales, and so is God. He didn't believe in God. Never worshipped in a church. He'd always got scolded for it, but as if he'd listen. Way too sharp for his age, huh? Dad, come on, what are you doing? Just tell me what is... Quiet! John was taken aback. Never in his life had he seen his father like this, so serious. He'd never raised his voice at him, but this was different. The whole scenario was different. The situation they were in, it could kill them. Dad, I won't stop until you tell me what it is all about, yelled out John. Mr. Smith stops praying. He sighs and keeps the locket back inside his shirt. He looks at John. See, kid, this is a dangerous situation we've gotten ourselves into. You just need to calm down. But I'm just asking what's so dangerous about this situation? Mr. Smith sighs again, accepting defeat. Once again, he looks around. I think this place is safer. So, tell me, John urges with his eyes filled with ego. Listen, he tries to make John understand. This is just a haunted place, the place we just been through. No, I want to know the whole story behind it. Why is it haunted? Why did you get so scared seeing that Teddy? Shh. He closes his eyes, wondering if he should tell him. He decides, as Mr. Davis was going to take time, and he knew how stubborn John was, to tell him. He breathes out, I'll tell you. And so does he.